Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Or whenever it is you're listening to this. It's morning here. Yet another of our lockdown updates in the midweek. I'm Dave and
Judith.
Judith.
And I wish somebody could record pressing record. We've just, if I looked a bit tearful, it's because I've been crying, laughing. Trying to get him to be serious to do this is.
Or if you're speaking English, it's crying, laughing. But hey.
There we go.
Yeah.
Go on, get it over and done with.
Get it over and done with. Yeah, of course you remember it was Mother's Day on Sunday, and I gave my wife a card.
Spoiler alert! It's never. You know how there's some beautiful Mother's Day cards out there with lovely pictures, lovely words, sentiments written inside. They're the kind of cards I buy for my mum.
Yeah.
I won't let him anywhere near buying a Mother's Day card for my mum. Well, I don't get cards from him like that, okay? Just spoiler alert, okay? Every year, you know you're never going to get one like that, a normal Mother's Day card.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is that when I choose a card, a lot of work and thought and care goes into it. So it's more special that way.
Special. That is a word that's often used about him.
Anyway, I put some nice words inside. I always buy blank cards because I like to make it fresh, you know. But I just want
it fresh.
Well, you know,
personal.
Come from personal. Anyway, I got this card and I'll just show you the picture because I can't think why I got it. Anyway, it's rather nice, isn't it? It's good. Anyway, that's that Mother's Day card. Some serious stuff now. If I could get serious for a moment. Did mention on Sunday. It was good on Sunday, wasn't it? The worship
Excellent.
time. Excellent,
Bob's preach was amazing when he finally got on.
Yeah, when he finally got on and didn't switch himself off.
Good old Bob.
But you know, a group of the musicians, worship team people got together and really, really good. So we do appreciate that. And so we're making preparations for the future and longing to get back together again soon. So that was Sunday. We did mention about helping Brian and Jackie with the gardening. We've got one volunteer for that. That particular person hasn't been 100% well and he's still recovering a little bit, but he's very eager to do it. But if you can help Brian and Jackie, Brian loves his garden, but because you know of his condition at the moment, he can't do it. And I think it's for a gardener who loves his garden to sit in looking out and its grass is getting long. It must be awful. But if you can help, there's a little bit of weeding and a little bit of mowing. There's an electric mower, etc. And as we said, you don't have to be an expert because Brian will say that's a weed, that's a plant, leave that alone. Pull that one up, so you can't lose. If you can help, please get in touch with
Rachel, admin at Horizon.
Yeah, admin at Horizon.
Or get in touch with us direct if you want to.
That'd be great. So, that's it. So, Julie's going to share something.
Thankfully, because I don't know what will come out of from you today with the mood you're in on. Put that away.
Which one's the real one? Anyway, Joe.
Do you know how many people I'm at the top of their prayer list in the world because of you? Right, pulling it back on. There's the clock. That's 9 o'clock. That's even joining in, honestly. Okay, well, I've got a very serious question to ask you today. If you could behave yourself.
I will behave myself from now on.
Can you tell me if he's not because you're watching this? I want to ask the question: how do you act with what you know? How do you act with what you know? And we heard an account of somebody this week who was in a room with their colleagues, and they were talking about coronavirus and death and illness and whatever else. And this person knew there was an atheist and a Christian in the room with them. And the Christian just blurts out to this atheist and says, well, because you're an atheist and don't believe in God, you've got no eternal hope anyway. So you'll have a different response to death, won't you?
Subtle.
I mean, that is not the way. That Christian knew of their eternal hope, and it was their eternal hope. For them, death is not the end. But what they did with what they knew was not wise, was not helpful, and I don't think it pointed the atheist towards a positive opinion of God, or even caused them to kind of think in a positive way about what they believed and what they didn't, and their response to death. That is not the way to do it. So I thought, I've read in my Bible today about Jesus and asking myself what he did with what he knew about himself. But before we do that, I want to contrast it with a person called Joseph in the Old Testament. You know, the guy with the flashy coat, the many-coloured coat. He was a favoured son. He had God's call on his life. God had a job for him to do, and God gave him dreams to kind of communicate that to him. But what he did with what he knew was completely, like the story we've just heard, not helpful.
Yeah.
He was boasting. He was insensitive to the feelings of others. He came across as arrogant. He got right up your nose, and he certainly got up the nose of his brothers. And the result of that behaviour, acting on what he knew, I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he knew all of those things, but how he acted to other people, then the result of that was hostility, jealousy. He provoked violent thoughts and actions in others towards himself. In fact, he nearly got himself murdered, but fortunately one of the brothers thought, well, let's just sell him instead.
Yeah.
Make a quick buck on the side from this arrogant brother. And that was what Joseph in the Old Testament did with what he knew. And then I've been reading today in Luke chapter 2 about Jesus and how he responded to what he knew. Now, I'm going to read from verse 41 in a minute, but prior to verse 41, in the previous verses, it tells us that Mary and Joseph, when Jesus was a young baby, took him to the temple. And at that time, a prophet called Simeon and a prophetess called Anna met with the family, and they just confirmed through prophecies about what had already been told Mary and Joseph via all sorts of other things, angels visiting them, etc., of what Jesus' future was going to look like, who this baby was. It was amazing. You can read for it yourself in Luke chapter 2 in the first few verses. So, and I thought to myself, I wonder what Jesus was told, because that happened when he was a baby, right? And so he wouldn't remember that. I wonder what Jesus was told. Was he told about this as he was growing up, about this encounter in the temple? Had Jesus been told about his miraculous conception and the visits of angels to his mum and his stepdad, his earthly dad? Had he been told about the visitors to the stable of the shepherds who'd been visited by an angel themselves, and the magi that had been called right from far away and bringing those amazing, expensive, meaningful gifts? Has he been told about that? Was he told about the escape that his mum and dad had to quickly whip him off to Egypt because the king was so cross that he'd been born, he was going to kill all the babies? The answer is, I don't know. I don't know whether his parents told him, whether his family told him. I don't know who told him what. But what I do know from Luke chapter 2, that by the age of 12 years old, Jesus knew who his father was.
That's right.
His real father was. And I'm just going to pick it up. Luke 2, verse 41 onwards. Every year, the parents of Jesus went to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. When Jesus was 12 years old, they went to the festival as usual. When the festival was over, they started back home, but the boy Jesus stayed in Jerusalem. His parents did not know this. They thought that he was with the group, so they travelled a whole day and then started looking for him among their relatives and friends. They did not find him, so they went back to Jerusalem looking for him. On the third day, they found him in the temple, sitting with the Jewish teachers, listening to them and asking questions. All who heard him were amazed at his intelligent answers. His parents were astonished when they saw him, and his mother said to him, "My son, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been terribly worried trying to find you." He answered them, "Why did you have to look for me? Didn't you know that I had to be in my father's house?" But they did not understand his answer. So Jesus went back with them to Nazareth, and he was obedient to them.
Yeah.
His mother treasured all these things in her heart, and Jesus grew both in body and in wisdom, gaining favour with God and with men. So, in complete contrast to Joseph, flashy coat, Old Testament, boastful, up your nose person who did what he did with what he knew was completely wrong. In complete contrast to that, I think from these verses we can see how Jesus was handling what he knew about himself. Firstly, in verse 43 to 45, when they started home, but the boy stayed in Jerusalem. His parents did not know this. They thought he was with the group, so they travelled a whole day and then started looking for him amongst their friends and relatives. You know what that tells me? That tells me that Mary and Joseph were completely unconcerned that they had not seen their 12-year-old all day. Now that tells me that he was often out and about. He was with lots of people. They were comfortable that he was safe, that he was with people he knew, that he was hanging about. He made it his habit of hanging about with people, or else they would have been really, really worried. Now, if I was the mother of the Son of God, I think I'd have him on a lead. Because I think I'm responsible to God where this boy is. And if I hadn't seen him all day, I would be a bit panicked, right? Okay, which eventually they were. But Mary and Joseph didn't have him on a lead. They just released him to be who he was. And he was hanging out with other people. That tells me that people liked him, that they enjoyed his company, that he enjoyed their company. So he wasn't an in-your-face Joseph character. Oh, could you imagine it? Jesus hanging about with his 12, 13-year-old mate saying, because you've got to remember, boys, you can't punch me because, I had Magi at my coming to my birth celebration. Who did you have coming to your party when you were... Do you know, he could have really got up their noses, but he didn't. Because if he had no friends, he would have been with his parents. But he had friends, and he had relatives who probably knew all about all this stuff that he was comfortable hanging around with. That's the first thing I noticed. And then the second thing is found in verse 51. When he was eventually discovered in the temple, but actually there's another one, there's a second one, where it says they found him, and the Jewish leaders he was asking questions, and they were kind of amazed at his answers, but he was listening to these Jewish leaders and asking them questions. Yeah. He was listening. Now, later on in his ministry, he was getting right up the noses of those people because he was challenging them and what they were saying. But he was listening to what they were saying. He was teachable, even at the age of 12, knowing that he was the Son of God. Anyhow, the third thing then is found in verse 51. Jesus went back with Mary and Joseph to Nazareth. Now, if you were kind of, decided that you were the Son of God, and you were in the temple for 3 days, that's where he was, asking questions, you think, well, actually, I've outgrown you, Mum and Dad, now. I'm going to take it from here. I am the Son of God. Don't worry about it. You go back to Nazareth. I'm staying here because I've got a calling. But no, he went back with them, and he was obedient to them. Oh, my goodness, the Son of God, 12 years old, obedient to his earthly parents. That is a good attitude. Even though he knew what he knew, he was obedient to his earthly parents. And then finally, the fourth thing in 52, verse 52, after he'd gone back with his parents, Jesus grew both in body and in wisdom, gaining favour with God and men. Favour with God and men. So he still wasn't boastful, arrogant, used his Son of God status to get favour or protection or an extra slice of cake at the dinner table. I am the Son of God, so I deserve that last piece of extra cake. He didn't do any of that. He gained favour with God, so he didn't get it got God's nose either, which was good. And men, people. Again, he was a people person. And do you know what? I think from that we can compare and contrast Joseph and the Old Testament Joseph, not the New Testament Joseph, Jesus' stepfather. The Old Testament Joseph with Jesus, and we can see how differently you can behave with what you know. So we do you know what? We do have truth. We do possess truth that is true. It's not an opinion. There is a God. He did send his son Jesus, we've been reading about. We are forgiven of our sin. We do have an eternal hope. When we physically die, we don't spiritually die. We're going to be with God for eternity. We've got peace. We've got hope. We've got eternal hope. We've got calling. We've got purpose, protection, provision. God is our Father. Yes, that is all true. Right? But two things. One is, do we communicate that truth to others? Right? And the second thing is, how do we communicate that truth? Because as we've seen today, there are ways that you do it and there are ways that you don't. If you don't communicate it in a correct way, then I say that you're doing people a disservice, because people need hope. People need assurance. People need to be pointed gently towards God, who is their eternal hope, who is their salvation, who can bring them peace, who can bring them forgiveness. And, you know, if we do it in a wrong way, we can actually put barriers in front of people. So don't go around with don't put your multicoloured Christian coat on and strut around like Joseph the adolescent, bigging it up, telling who you are, and like, oh, well, of course you're depressed because you don't have the peace of God. I mean, get a brain, you know, but do live it out. Do communicate it. Let that peace permeate everything that you do and the way you act and the decisions that you make. And then people will start to come and ask you, why aren't you stressed about that? Or were you not upset by this? Or why have you still got a smile on your face? Or, you know, or what do you think about this? We have to be ready to give an account of the hope that we have. But you have to give that an account in a very, very sensitive way, that loving people that are not going to put them off the message and the messenger. Okay, we need to grow in favour with God and people. So if you upset people because of your Christian faith, as in what you say and how you communicate it, we need to have a rethink of that. But let's be more like Jesus in behaving with what we know than Joseph in the Old Testament.
Brilliant. There's a couple of things as similarities, you know, with Joseph. When as a young man, he was his dad's favourite. And God had a purpose for him. But that purpose wasn't unfolded until he'd been through all sorts of things. And years later on, it was through Joseph being in Egypt that his family was saved from famine. You can read about it. And Jesus, when he was 12 years old, he didn't go off and be the Son of God. And
his stuff.
No, there's still 28 years to go before he did that. And a lot of people don't realise that he only ministered by the power of the Spirit in 3 years. He changed history.
30 years old, yeah.
At the age of 30-ish, for 3 years, and then he was crucified. Wow, they were some three years. And, you know, Joseph was wrong in some of his attitude, but God's grace overruled. Jesus was right in his attitude because he was the sinless, divine Son of God who came to this world. And it's by grace that we follow him. So thanks, Judith. That was good this morning. And we trust that you all have a great week.
See you on Sunday.
Yes, Sunday we'll be rocking and rolling and joining together to worship and do church. And yes, let's look to these lengthening spring days with hope that, you know, things will ease and we'll be able to
get back together again.
Get back together. It's so important. So God bless. Have a great week. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.